Hello everybody, welcome. Today the video is about Qubes OS and what I think of it, and we are going to rank it together with the other operating systems I'm reviewing. But before we jump to the weed, we need to talk about the environment. My ThinkPad X230 is basically one of the ideal environments for running Qubes OS, not in terms of performance, but in what Qubes OS is supposed to represent. Not only I'm running Coreboot, and that's an open source firmware that removes any proprietary binary blobs from your system, including Intel's management engine, but I went all in and I've also removed the proprietary code for the Intel graphics, and I'm using SeaVGABIOS. So there's absolutely no proprietary stuff running here. Even the Wi-Fi card, I replaced the original Intel with an Atheros chipset, and that also runs open source drivers. Let's boot into the system and see how it looks like. When you log in, you're greeted by a classic, I think it's XFCE desktop. So if you look on the top right side, you have a few icons by default, right? So you get your network status, you get this icon for managing your devices and assigning them to the virtual machines you have. You get the battery status, right? Then here you can see your storage status. The clipboard manager. Qubes OS captures every single keyboard interaction to avoid them to leak to other VMs. So you have a local and a global. And here you can see the cubes that are actually running and their CPU usage. Now, how does it work? Every single cube is actually a VM, right? And you get to create different cubes based on your risk profile, your personal preferences, and your workflow. So for example, a person that has a privacy concern would configure their cubes differently compared to a person that is under a hacking risk or a physical attack, right? Someone takes your laptop away from you. In my case, I sorted out my cubes by disposables, one running Debian and the other one running Unix, and that routes the traffic through Tor, right? Then I get an anonymous Unix cube that's not disposable, one for my banking applications, one for Google, one for personal things, right? You have here all the applications installed, LibreOffice and Arduino and so on. An untrusted, where it's something that I may want to run more than once, save and manipulate data, but I don't want to risk my other data with it. Like, so reoccurring tasks using non-secure pages or non-secure software. The vault is where I keep my password manager, right? And my work cube, for example, you get here Visual Studio Code and Thunderbird. So if I am working using this laptop, which I don't do all that often, but it's possible, then this is where I have the configuration. And how is it configured? So you get a cube manager, where you get to associate templates to your VMs and also the network connection. So for example, I am concerned about privacy, so I get my Google machine always going through Unix. And I have a VPN cube as well that I connect to my personal VPN server. So if I am out of home and I want to browse the internet, I will first assign my personal VM, for example, to the VPN Unix, to the VPN VM, right, to the VPN cube. And once I start the personal VM, it will automatically start the VPN cube, and it will not start the personal VM until the VPN cube is ready to go. So you're sure that no data leaks anywhere. So for example, if you're in a cyber cafe and you're worried about all the login information that gets sent out after you have Wi-Fi connected but before VPN kicks in, Qubes OS will protect you from this threat, right? Because, for example, the firewall VM is connected to network VM, so first the network gets connected, the firewall VM gets connected to the network VM, and then your VPN connects to it, or your Wonix with Tor gets connected to it. This makes for a very inefficient system in terms of performance, but highly secure. So since I migrated to Qubes, I actually have decided that this laptop is going to remain on Qubes OS. I don't log into any account anywhere besides this computer. I may generate, for example, a token to be able to go to Git and get source code on my FreeBSD machine or my Mac machine, but I will not do any banking, any email, and so on. So let's go to a demonstration of how then I would use Qubes. Let's say I'm not home, so I will go here and I will move my personal VM to the VPN, and I will, Google is already pointing to Wonix, so that's gonna get Tor, and the others remain as they are. So let's say I will just do a little bit of YouTube. So let's go to Google and open Firefox. You see here that the Wonix VM is starting, and the Google VM is going to wait until the Wonix VM is up and running. Plus you're going to get the Tor icon, connection icon up here in the notification area. So you see Wonix is up. Google is going to start starting now. Very well. Let's say on my personal VM I want to work on some Arduino project, right? And I want to browse some assets that I have in my home server, so I need VPN. So when I click in Arduino, first I will get VPN running, as you can see here on the right hand side. On the top here you see that Tor is waiting to connect. Right, so if I come here, I get Tor status, Tor is running, but you get the Tor control panel here. I'm connected to the Tor network, and you can see logs. You can restart Tor here if you need. And if you go here, you can also see the software date status, right? So it's fetching time, and it fetches time using Tor. And once time is synchronized securely, this lock icon here is gonna go fully closed, and then you know you are fine. My personal VM now has started, and soon we're gonna have Arduino running. There's another thing you do as well. So let's suppose I am attaching, one second, I'm attaching a USB device. Let's suppose I need to see my passwords, right? So I have my YubiKey here, and once I connect to the laptop, you see that the YubiKey acts as input device, like a human interaction device, like a keyboard or a mouse, technically speaking, but Qubes will not allow access to DOM 0 where all the other VMs are running and where the VM management is running. So that's nice. And if I need to use my YubiKey, I need to right click here, I need to right click here, and I need to go to Yubico and then assign it to a VM. Of course, I have my password manager, and my password manager is running in a Qube that does not have access to the internet. Qubes has a mechanism where if I need to fetch updates, it will still work, right? But no application will have direct access to the internet. So let's say I want to see my passwords. I go to Vault, I go to KeepAsXC, the vault cube is gonna start, and once it's up, I can assign my YubiKey to it and log in. I'll show you what I mean now. Because you have my Qubes XFCE here running, and there are no keys. It's not detecting a key because the USB device is not assigned to any VM. And if you look here, also microphone is off. The system routes audio out, but microphone doesn't work. So if anyone is capturing your audio, it's just going nowhere. So if one of your cubes, one of your VMs gets hacked or attacked, there's no audio input device to be listened on. And also any USB device that you connect, or even SD cards, they have to be assigned to a cube before you can use them. So let's say I will now go to my YubiKey, I assign it to the vault, and now if I refresh here, now I have the YubiKey available for the vault. So this is truly amazing. Another thing I do, and I have it configured, is when I boot with the YubiKey on, my password gets verified. It's attached to the YubiKey, so it's a multi-factor authentication. If someone else gets my passwords and they don't have the YubiKey, they cannot log in. So that's basically how it works, right? Of course, in terms of usability, it is it's complicated, right? But once you get used to it, it's not such a burden. So let's suppose I go to my personal files, right? And then I go to files, and I cannot get something I downloaded in a disposable cube, for example, and send it to another. So if I want to take this script and copy somewhere else, or move it somewhere else, then I have to do this and choose the target cube. The target cube is going to start up and receive the file. The same happens, for example, you have an option to edit in the disposable VM. If you get, for example, a Word document that you don't know if you trust, then you click in edit in the disposable VM. Qubes OS is going to automatically spin up a disposable VM, give you the chance to edit the application, save it if you like. And for example, if I have untrusted PDFs, so for example, I have these payment instructions here, and PDFs may contain, I don't know if they are scripts, but sometimes PDFs can be malicious. So if you right click and click in convert to trusted PDF, it's going to automatically basically rasterize the PDF, and you get the text, you get the images, but none of the dynamic content or loading fonts or links, all of this is gonna disappear, right? What else do we have here of interesting? Clipboard, right? So let's suppose I have a text document here in my, let's go to LibreOffice Writer. This is quite interesting. So here you see the writer tried to be bigger than the screen, but that's a security concern if the controls of the window are gone, right? So Qubes OS captures any screen that's larger than your monitor and will just make sure it fits on the screen. Well, let's say if I come here and I write something and I copy it, so I just copied with the keyboard, but let me just go to edit and copy. So this is weird. Now it's better. Edit and copy. Let's suppose I go to my Google Cube and open another text editor here. So let's open it here. So let's do another Word document. If I paste, I get nothing. So let's demonstrate again. So edit, paste, nothing. Now if I go back to the original cube and do Ctrl-Shift-C, Now the content has been captured by the global clipboard, as you can see on the top right side. And when I go to the other VM, to the other cube, I do Ctrl-Shift-V. Now the contents have been copied to the clipboard of this local VM, and when I paste, it's there. So, final score for the interface and usability, right? So, Qubes OS gets a 10 out of a 10. This is not the most user-friendly interface, but when you consider what it does and the level of complexity that it makes so easily accessible, it's really, really a 10. Which brings me also to the security score. It's also 10 of 10. Qubes OS, if you know what you're looking for and if you know how to use it, if some part of your digital life gets compromised by any reason, you know that it's not going to affect the rest depending on how you divide your tasks. And honestly, if you use it right, your chances of getting in trouble are very, very, very low. Let's talk a little bit about performance. Boot performance is completely atrocious. It's a disaster. Not only you have to enter password encryption, but during boot it will start 2 or 3 VMs out of the gate. Moreover, I'm going to show you something. Yeah? So the display model is meant to be secure, right? So there is a special way Qubes handles the display server, meaning that, for example, you get no hardware acceleration for video playback. Let's give an example here. So let's just open YouTube. There's another thing here. I'm connected to Tor, so most probably I'm going to be asked to enter a captcha or something. Yeah, as expected. Congratulations on being a robot. So when I load a YouTube video, the screen redraws are all basically software rendered, right? So there is no acceleration here, as I mentioned. So when you look here in the CPU usage, not only the video capture, the Google VM where the browser is running at full CPU. So I'm basically using a full core because it's decoding the video via software, but also DOM 0 that hosts the screen server, the display server. It's redrawing the screen by software. So this is a quite quiet, calm video, but if I get another video here that has more motion, so this video here has a little bit more of motion, and you're going to see that the CPU usage went higher. If I make it full screen, Qubes is not going to allow it. You see, because it also blocks applications of going full screen unless you allow them here, and that's for security reasons. But now that I have a larger video, the CPU usage here is higher on DOM 0 as well, and I'm not even running at a very high resolution. If I just go here and make it 1080p, the computer will suffer. And this computer runs 1080p perfectly fine if you are under Linux or Windows. Yeah, and not only that, I am I see it's struggling with the performance, and CPU usage is off the roof. Even the CPU performance now on DOM 0 went a bit lower because, well, there is less video data going through. Yeah, so let's try another resolution. Let's make it 720p. I'm basically trying to force more redraws on the screen, to show you how DOM 0 goes up. Yeah, anyway, as you can see, there's not much you can do here. Yeah, it's the point is to be secure, not to be fast. Another thing is gaming. As you can see here, gaming performance would be atrocious, but I've heard of some folks that two options. There's a way for you to run drivers. It's not recommended, it breaks a bit of the security model, but it should be possible. And the second thing that I've heard folks doing is, for example, let's go to any Qube. You basically have a desktop with a GPU, mouse, and so on. And when you go here to devices, you can assign PCI devices to this Qube and do via PCI pass-through, yeah. And that in theory gives the GPU to a Qube. You have to connect an external screen, of course, but you get the performance you need in theory. I haven't tried this, but well, with all that has been said, Qubes gets a 0 out of 10 in terms of performance. It is slow, it's on purpose, I understand why it is like this, but it doesn't change the fact that it is a slow operating system. Nonetheless, to browse the internet, connect securely, send messages, keep your personal data very safe, it is. And since we are talking performance, gaming performance is also 0, so they both go hand in hand. What else? Software. The availability of software is basically Linux. Yeah, you go to the terminal, you do apt, right? So, for example, I can go here to personal and I can start the terminal and I can do sudo apt install, let's see, x11 apps, right? And it will find the software, install it, and you can run it. So here, if I now want, I should be able to get Xcalc. Well, it's a slow system, but it does the job. You get a calculator, Xcalc, yeah? The caveat though is that you need to install software to a template if you want to survive reboot. So here in case I installed software from the running VM. So every time I restart, the software is gone because it's going to restart the VM from the disk image. But that's not the concern here. We are talking about software availability, and it is a 10 of 10. You get everything that Linux has available. And also you can run your own VMs with Windows. There are documents on how to install Windows. You can install FreeBSD. You lose some of the features, like screen capture, and I think there's something with the clipboard, I'm not sure, but if you need, you can run it. If you run disposable VMs, both on Tor or even on your local network, you get all the time a free new machine. So let's suppose I start Firefox here, you get the message that the disposable VM 5532 is starting. So once it loads, let's say I will do my web browsing. I will go, I will shop online, I will do whatever, right? And when I turn the browser off, or whatever software I have assigned to the VM, it could be a text editor, right? It could be a private messaging application. Once I shut the last application belonging to that disposable Qube, to that disposable VM, you see how the screen withdraws slowly. Yeah. So what happens here? So let's say I did some shopping or I browse something to avoid, for example, cross-domain tracking, right? So I did my browsing here, and when I click window, the VM is gonna be destroyed. It's gonna finalize the VM and destroy it. And if I open C5532 has shut down, and if I go here and I start another Firefox session here, it will create 5578. It's just a random number. It works perfectly fine. It's super. It's really nice to avoid tracking and persistent crap that you know exists. So privacy is the most well-deserved 10 of 10. Especially if you go use Tor browser in a disposable VM, then it's really hard to track you. So what's the conclusion here? Qubes is super. Everyone who worries about the situation of the internet today in terms of privacy and who wants to really keep confidential and private data safe, right, should have a look in Qubes. I fell in love, I enjoy it. I plan on donating to the project because it's just really that useful and excellent. And you can really compartmentalize your life. If you have a single beefy PC and you don't need hardware acceleration for anything, you get to sort your online life and work on it. And of course, I need to do some other development work. It's nice to have a computer for GPU, but then I know I don't log into anything. I can clear cookies, I can keep the machine. I'm gonna just put here the total points and see how it compares to our previous contender, and that was HiQ OS. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.